When this strikes home, that's terrible. Eats you up.
On a cold March day in 1987, tragedy struck without warning high above the rugged mountains of Southern California. A military jet disappeared into heavy clouds before slamming into the snow-covered slopes of the San Bernardino Mountains, ending the life of 35-year-old Captain Dean Paul Martin. To the public, he was the handsome son of entertainment icon Dean Martin. To his family, he was much more than that. He was a devoted father, a loving brother, a dedicated Air National Guard pilot, and a man who had spent his entire life trying to build an identity beyond one of Hollywood's most famous last names. The news spread rapidly across America. Fans who had watched Dean Paul grow up in magazines, television appearances, and music performances were stunned.
When you hear about somebody passing away, you say that's, it's a terrible thing, but
Friends struggled to accept that someone so full of energy, ambition, and promise had vanished in an instant. But perhaps no one carried a heavier burden than his father. Dean Martin, a man celebrated for his effortless smile and carefree image, suddenly faced a heartbreak unlike anything he had experienced before. The loss of his son would leave a wound that never truly healed. In this video, we'll look back at the remarkable life of Dean Paul Martin, from his childhood in one of Hollywood's most recognizable families to his success as a musician, actor, athlete, and military pilot.
But luckily we had a big family, and if we just had Dean Paul, then it would be worse than it is now.
We'll also examine the events leading up to the tragic crash that claimed his life, the investigation that followed, and the lasting impact his death had on those who loved him. Through rare stories, archival accounts, and the memories of people who knew him best, we'll uncover the story behind one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking tragedies. Hollywood Unwritten presents the tragic plane crash that killed Dean Martin's son. Dean Paul Martin, Jr. entered the world on November 17, 1951, in Santa Monica, California. He was the son of legendary entertainer Dean Martin and his second wife, Jean Beager. From the very beginning, his life was surrounded by cameras, movie sets, recording studios, and some of the biggest names in show business. While most children grew up seeing celebrities on television, Dean Paul grew up meeting them in his own living room. Yet living in the shadow of enormous fame came with its own challenges. Everyone knew his father's name long before they learned his. Expectations followed him wherever he went, and many assumed success would simply be handed to him. Instead of embracing that assumption, Dean Paul became determined to prove he could earn respect on his own. He wanted to be recognized for his own achievements rather than simply as Dean Martin's son. Watching his father work gave him an early education in what it truly meant to succeed. Dean Martin made performing appear effortless, but behind the relaxed smile was a relentless professional who rehearsed, prepared, and constantly refined his craft.
Given full military honors yesterday at a Los Angeles memorial service. Among those attending were Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Lucille Ball, Olivia Hussey, his first wife.
Those lessons left a lasting impression on Dean Paul. He developed a strong work ethic and a willingness to pursue whatever captured his interest, whether that meant music, acting, competitive sports, or eventually flying military aircraft. Despite his demanding career, Dean Martin remained deeply committed to his family. Friends often remarked that away from the cameras, he was a devoted father who treasured spending time with his children. He encouraged them to follow their own dreams rather than forcing them into his footsteps. Dean Paul grew up surrounded by that encouragement, along with the support of his siblings, including his older sister Gail and younger brother Richie, pronounced Ricky. Their home was filled with laughter, music, practical jokes, and a close family bond that would remain important throughout Dean Paul's life. By the time he reached his early teenage years, it became clear that music was calling his name. At just 13 years old, Dean Paul joined forces with Desi Arnaz Jr. and Billy Hinchy to form the pop trio Dino, Desi, and Billy. The group immediately attracted attention, not only because all three members came from famous families, but because they possessed genuine musical talent and natural stage presence. Their youthful energy connected with audiences across America. In 1965, the trio released their debut single, I'm a Fool. The song quickly gained radio airplay and climbed the Billboard Hot 100, eventually reaching number 17. For Dean Paul, it marked the beginning of a promising career built on his own abilities. Although his famous last name opened doors, it was his voice, charisma, and determination that convinced audiences he deserved to walk through them.
We speak of him, we talk, we drink to him, you know.
From that point forward, it became increasingly clear that Dean Paul Martin intended to create a legacy that belonged entirely to him. The success of I'm a Fool transformed Dino, Desi, and Billy almost overnight. What had started as three teenagers making music together quickly became one of the hottest young acts in America. Radio stations embraced their sound. Teenage fans packed concerts, and magazines featured the trio as the next generation of pop stars. For Dean Paul Martin, it was his first real taste of life as a performer, earning recognition on his own merits rather than simply being introduced as Dean Martin's son. The group soon followed their breakthrough with another successful single, Not the Lovin' Kind, which climbed to number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100. Their growing popularity opened doors that most young musicians could only dream about. They appeared on major television programs, including The Ed Sullivan Show and The Dean Martin Show, performing before millions of viewers across the country. Although sharing the stage with his famous father could have been intimidating, Dean Paul carried himself with remarkable confidence, showing audiences that he belonged there. Those years proved invaluable. Night after night, performance after performance, he learned how to command a stage, connect with an audience, and work closely with fellow musicians.
Martin's remains have not been found yet. After the service, military jets flew overhead in a lost man formation.
Touring taught him discipline. Television appearances taught him professionalism. Every concert strengthened his confidence and prepared him for opportunities that extended far beyond music. Like many pop groups of the era, however, Dino, Desi, and Billy's time together was relatively brief. By the late 1960s, changing musical tastes and different career ambitions led the trio to go their separate ways. Even so, the group's influence remained significant. They demonstrated that the children of famous entertainers could build successful careers through talent and dedication instead of simply relying on family connections. For Dean Paul, those formative years became the first chapter in a life defined by constantly seeking new challenges. Unlike many young entertainers who spent their entire careers chasing another hit record, Dean Paul refused to limit himself to one profession. He possessed an adventurous personality and was constantly searching for something new to master. Music had opened the first door, but it would be far from the last. As he entered adulthood, another passion began to dominate his life: tennis. Dean Paul threw himself into the sport with the same intensity he had once devoted to music. He trained tirelessly, spending long hours perfecting his serve, improving his footwork, and building the physical endurance required to compete at a high level. Friends recalled that he approached practice with remarkable focus, determined to test himself against serious competition rather than treating tennis as a celebrity hobby. His hard work eventually earned him the opportunity to compete in the qualifying rounds of the prestigious Wimbledon Championships.
When we found out that Dean Paul was gone, I had 10 days before I had to open in Las Vegas.
Between 1975 and 1978, Dean Paul repeatedly attempted to earn a place in one of the world's most respected tennis tournaments. Although he never advanced into the main draw or reached the ranks of the sport's elite professionals, Simply competing at that level required exceptional dedication and athletic ability. More importantly, the experience reflected something fundamental about his personality. He wasn't interested in taking shortcuts or accepting easy praise because of his famous surname. Whether on stage or on the tennis court, he wanted to earn every opportunity through effort and perseverance. His love of tennis unexpectedly opened another career path. In 1979, Dean Paul made his feature film debut in the romantic drama Players, starring opposite Ali McGraw. The casting seemed almost perfect. He portrayed a professional tennis player, allowing him to combine his real-life athletic experience with his growing interest in acting.
Oh, I'll perform until I'm gone.
The performance felt natural, and audiences immediately noticed his relaxed screen presence. Critics responded positively, praising both his charisma and his potential as a leading man. His performance even earned him a Golden Globe nomination for New Star of the Year, a remarkable achievement for someone making his first major film appearance. It was yet another reminder that Dean Paul wasn't simply experimenting with different careers. He had genuine talent in every field he pursued. Hollywood soon began to take notice. Throughout the early 1980s, Dean Paul accepted additional acting roles while continuing to develop his craft. One of his best-known projects came with the television series Misfits of Science, where he starred alongside a young Courtney Cox. Although the series lasted only a single season, it introduced him to an even wider television audience and demonstrated that he was capable of carrying a major network production. Colleagues often described him as easygoing, hardworking, and eager to improve with every project. Rather than relying on charm alone, he studied his performances, listened to directors, and continually searched for ways to become a better actor. Those qualities earned him respect throughout the industry and suggested that an even bigger Hollywood career might lie ahead. By the mid-1980s, Dean Paul Martin had accomplished something few people ever manage. He had succeeded as a recording artist, competed at an elite level in professional tennis, and established himself as a promising actor. Yet none of those achievements would ultimately define his legacy. The greatest challenge of his life, and the one he valued most, was still waiting for him, thousands of feet above the ground in the cockpit of a military jet.
I'll be going to Las Vegas as long as they'll have me.
While Dean Paul Martin had already earned recognition as a musician, actor, and accomplished athlete, none of those careers stirred his heart quite the way flying did. The stage brought applause, the tennis court brought competition, and Hollywood offered fame, but the cockpit gave him something entirely different. It gave him purpose. His fascination with aviation began early. As a teenager, Dean Paul became captivated by airplanes, studying them with the same curiosity that other young people reserved for sports cars or movie stars. The thrill of taking off, the precision required to control an aircraft, and the freedom that came with soaring above the clouds quickly became an obsession. At just 16 years old, he earned his pilot's license, an achievement that surprised many considering how young he was. While most teenagers were learning to drive, Dean Paul was already learning to navigate the skies. Friends recalled that once he started flying, it became impossible to keep him away from an airport for very long. Every opportunity to get back into the air was one he eagerly accepted. Even as his entertainment career continued to grow, aviation remained his true passion. Acting roles came and went. Television projects rose and fell. Music had already reached its natural conclusion. But flying was constant. It wasn't something he did for publicity or another paycheck. It was something he genuinely loved. That passion eventually led him toward military service. In 1980, Dean Paul joined the California Air National Guard, making a commitment that surprised some people in Hollywood. Many expected the son of Dean Martin to continue building a glamorous entertainment career. Instead, he willingly entered one of the most demanding environments imaginable, where fame meant nothing and performance meant everything. Military aviation required discipline, precision, and complete accountability. Every flight demanded intense preparation, constant training, and absolute concentration. Mistakes could carry life or death consequences. Dean Paul embraced those standards wholeheartedly. He entered officer training through the U.S. Air Force and devoted himself to mastering every aspect of military aviation. The classroom instruction was demanding. The physical requirements were intense. Flight training tested both technical skill and mental discipline. Yet by every account, he welcomed the challenge instead of fearing it. His dedication paid off in 1981 when he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. It was a milestone he had worked tirelessly to achieve, and one that represented far more than another line on his resume. For Dean Paul, earning those wings symbolized the realization of a lifelong dream. Over the following years, he trained on several military aircraft before eventually qualifying to fly one of the Air Force's most respected fighter jets, the F-4 Phantom II. The Phantom was not an aircraft that forgave mistakes. Designed as a powerful supersonic fighter, it demanded exceptional judgment, precise flying skills, and complete trust between pilot and weapons systems officer. Every mission required teamwork, quick decision-making, and calmness under pressure. Dean Paul thrived in that environment. His fellow officers admired both his professionalism and his attitude. Despite his famous background, he never expected special treatment and rarely discussed his Hollywood connections. Inside the Air National Guard, he wasn't Dean Martin's son. He was simply another officer working hard to earn the respect of those around him. Flying meant more to him than words could fully capture. During one interview, he described the feeling of watching the sunrise from thousands of feet above the earth, explaining that the experience was so extraordinary it made every sacrifice worthwhile. Looking back today, those words carry a heartbreaking weight, but they also reveal just how deeply he loved being in the air. No matter how dangerous military aviation could be, Dean Paul never lost his enthusiasm. He understood the risks every pilot accepted, yet he believed some dreams were worth pursuing despite the danger. That dream would ultimately lead him to the flight that changed everything. On the morning of March 21, 1987, Captain Dean Paul Martin and his weapons systems officer, Captain Ramon Ortiz, prepared for what was expected to be another routine training mission aboard an F-4C Phantom. Both men had trained extensively for flights like this. The aircraft was familiar, the procedures were well established, and nothing initially suggested the mission would become one of the most heartbreaking aviation tragedies connected to Hollywood. As the F-4 Phantom continued through worsening weather, air traffic controllers at Ontario Airport became increasingly alarmed. Radar showed the aircraft descending to an altitude that left very little room for error among the towering peaks of the San Bernardino Mountains. The controller monitoring the flight recognized the danger almost immediately and urgently attempted to help guide the crew away from the rising terrain. Radio instructions became more frequent as concern grew. Every transmission carried a sense of urgency, with controllers doing everything possible to steer the aircraft towards safer airspace. But inside the cockpit, Dean Paul Martin and Captain Ramon Ortiz were battling conditions that were deteriorating by the minute. Heavy snowfall had transformed the mountains into a wall of white. Thick clouds swallowed the surrounding landscape, leaving almost no visual reference points. In such conditions, even experienced military pilots could become dangerously disoriented. The mountains were hidden until the very last moment, and every second mattered. Then, in an instant, tragedy struck. Traveling at approximately 400 miles per hour, the F-4C Phantom slammed into the slopes of Mount San Gorgonio. The impact was catastrophic. There was no opportunity to recover, no emergency landing, and no chance for escape. Captain Dean Paul Martin and Captain Ramon Ortiz were both killed instantly while carrying out a routine training mission, The shocking news spread rapidly through both the military and the entertainment world. For fellow service members, 2 respected officers had been lost in the line of duty. For Hollywood, the son of one of its greatest stars was suddenly gone. For family and friends, the headlines could never fully capture the enormous personal loss they were experiencing. Almost immediately after the crash, search and recovery teams battled harsh weather and difficult mountain terrain to reach the accident site. Snow, steep slopes, and dangerous conditions made recovery operations incredibly challenging. The remote location only added to the heartbreak surrounding the tragedy. With the immediate search completed, the U.S. Air Force launched a comprehensive investigation to determine exactly what had happened. Specialists examined every piece of available evidence. Investigators studied radar information, flight records, radio communications, weather reports, and the wreckage itself. Their goal was to reconstruct the final moments of the flight as accurately as possible. The findings pointed overwhelmingly toward the weather. Investigators concluded that the severe snowstorm had reduced visibility to dangerously low levels, while the mountainous terrain offered almost no margin for error. Flying at high speed through narrow mountain valleys under those conditions presented an extraordinary challenge, even for experienced military crews. The investigation found no evidence of mechanical failure that could fully explain the accident. Instead, officials determined that a tragic combination of extreme weather, limited visibility, and the demanding environment had led to what pilots refer to as controlled flight into terrain, a heartbreaking accident in which a fully functioning aircraft unintentionally collides with the ground. For the Air National Guard, the loss was deeply personal. Fellow pilots remembered Dean Paul and Ramon Ortiz not only as capable officers, but as professionals who had earned the respect of everyone around them through hard work and dedication. Military aviation has always carried significant risks, and their deaths served as another painful reminder of the dangers faced by those who train to protect their country. No one, however, felt the loss more profoundly than Dean Martin. Despite the carefree image he projected throughout his career, those closest to him knew how devoted he was to his children. Friends later described him as completely devastated by the death of Dean Paul. The loss shattered something inside him that never fully recovered. Although he continued making occasional public appearances in the years that followed, many believed a part of the joyful entertainer audiences had known for decades disappeared on that mountainside with his son. The Martin family leaned on one another as they struggled through unimaginable grief. Siblings, relatives, and close friends gathered in support, trying to cope with a tragedy that words could scarcely describe. Across Hollywood, actors, musicians, television personalities, and longtime friends sent messages of sympathy, remembering Dean Paul as someone whose kindness matched his talent. Tributes poured in from every corner of the entertainment industry and the military community. Those who had worked with him spoke of his humility, professionalism, and quiet determination. Rather than focusing on his famous last name, they remembered a man who constantly pushed himself to improve, whether on stage, in front of a camera, or inside the cockpit of a fighter jet. Nearly 3 decades later, the Martin family would experience another heartbreaking loss. In 2016, Dean Paul's younger half-brother, Richie Martin, passed away at the age of 62. A talented musician himself, Richie spent much of his later career celebrating the remarkable legacy of the Martin family. He recorded music, collaborated with longtime friend Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys, and frequently performed tribute shows honoring his father. Those performances became far more than concerts. They were opportunities to keep family memories alive. Richie shared stories about Dean Martin's life, celebrated the music that had made his father a legend, and quietly honored the memory of Dean Paul, ensuring audiences never forgot the brother whose promising future had ended far too soon. He also reunited with Desi Arnaz Jr. and Billy Hinshaw. the surviving members of Dino, Desi, and Billy, reconnecting with the group that had first introduced Dean Paul Martin to audiences decades earlier. Together, they helped preserve not only the music they had created as teenagers, but also the memory of the friend whose journey had been tragically interrupted at just 35 years old. Together, Richie Martin, Desi Arnaz Jr., and Billy Hinsche brought Dino, Desi, and Billy back to life for audiences who remembered the excitement of the 1960s. Their reunion performances were more than nostalgic concerts. They became heartfelt celebrations of friendship, family, and a young man whose voice had once helped launch the group to national fame. Every song served as a quiet tribute to Dean Paul Martin, ensuring that his memory continued to live on through the music they had created together decades earlier. When Richie passed away in 2016, the Martin family faced yet another painful chapter. Losing Dean Paul had forever changed their lives, and nearly 30 years later, they were forced to say goodbye to another beloved son and brother. Yet through every hardship, the family's legacy endured. Dean Martin's music continues to entertain new generations. Richie's performances helped preserve those memories. And Dean Paul remains remembered not simply for the famous name he carried, but for the remarkable life he built on his own. His story is one of ambition, determination, and courage. He could have lived comfortably as the son of a Hollywood legend, but instead he chose to challenge himself at every turn. He became a successful recording artist, competed at an elite level in tennis, earned recognition as an actor, and fulfilled his greatest dream by serving his country as a military pilot. Although his life ended far too soon in the mountains of California, the example he left behind continues to inspire those who believe that character is defined not by the family you're born into, but by the choices you make. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which part of Dean Paul Martin's journey impacted you the most? Was it his early success with Dino, Desi, and Billy, his promising acting career, his dedication to tennis, or his commitment to military service? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We always enjoy reading your perspectives and hearing which stories resonate most with you. If you enjoyed this look back at one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking true stories, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our future deep dives into the lives, triumphs, and tragedies of legendary stars from the golden age of entertainment. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.